Welcome to another set of questions from Reddit for the week for Overwatch. Here we go. The top question of the week was, are you paying attention to what's going on? I was thinking about why I would lose certain games, and I had the thought, I have no idea what my team is doing for the majority of the game. I'm talking about individual plays that you would notice if you were paying attention. I noticed that high-ranking players usually have awareness of what's going on and react accordingly in that same fast-paced environment. It had me thinking that you could be terrible with mechanics, but if you could process what's going on faster and more accurately, you would climb up. In PC terms, we're like those computers in school that would take a minute to open in Chrome, and then would also open like 20 other copies because you kept clicking, and the high-rank players are basically NASA supercomputers. I mean, the short answer is yes, I try to pay attention to what's going on, and yes, sometimes I fall into the habit of autopiloting where I'm not really thinking about the game environment and the variables and objective and all those sorts of things. But this is part of the skill of Overwatch and gaming in general. In a competitive, high action paced shooter like this, you have to try to be aware of your surroundings and react accordingly. So yes, I am paying attention, and you pretty much called yourself out on it. Why would I lose certain games? It's because I wasn't really paying attention. This comes with time. There will be certain times where, mechanics and aiming become second nature, like driving a car, driving manual or stick shift for the first time. You have to think about your actions a lot and get used to it. But once you're automatic, you don't have any resources to think, like you're not allocating brain resources to shift up, shift down. You just drive, and then you can daydream because everything feels really automatic and you're not really paying attention. Like you're paying attention, but not really. Like it's a bad analogy. Don't do that. You should pay attention when you drive. But you kind of see where I'm getting at. Not a great analogy, but try your best to work on little aspects of your game, like your mechanics and whatever, so that those don't have to be focused on, so you can pay attention to the ever-changing variables in front of you. But things like your aim are going to be quite static. So that's kind of like how I would allocate it to get a little better in that way. Why don't more people ping on death? I didn't know this until a few weeks back, but hitting the ping button after you die and before the kill replay alerts to everyone in your team where that person was who killed you. This has been game-changing, especially when it comes to death by Sombra, considering it shows your team their location, even if they're invisible. I'll pause you on that in a moment. Since I figured this out, I do it all the time, and I love seeing my teammates capitalize on this. That being said, I've noticed in the past couple of games that no one seems to do this, and it becomes frustrating when a teammate dies near you and you hear in voice chat, Hanzo was flanking, but you don't know where the heck they're at because they could be at numerous spots depending on the map. Honestly, it's a blessing to have an easy free ping, as you don't even need to be looking at the person to call out their location because you're dead AF, but I'm wondering if there's a reason why more people don't do this. I'd say the reason why people don't do this is because they simply don't know. You're right, when you die, you have about a 3-second window. If you press the ping button, it'll mark them on the location of where they were when they last killed you for a brief moment. If they break line of sight, the ping will pause right there and it'll become grayed out. But if they re-enter your LOS, it'll highlight again just for a few seconds after. You should do this, more people should do it, but it's probably because they're not aware of it, or if they're legacy Overwatch 1 players, it's still not built into their habit. So I'll be with you where I will encourage everybody who's reading this and listening to try your best to remember to ping after you die. It's kind of like the reason why do people skip kill cams after they die, when realistically you could also get information like how much ultimate charge the enemy has. So on death, 2 things to remember. Ping immediately, watch the kill cam for a second, check how much ult charge the person who killed you have, and relay that information for your team. These are actually good tips. Won't be game changing because the bigger variables like, how you approach the game, your macro will be important, but these are little things that can contribute to wins. I should probably still work on this ping video that I've been talking about for like 2 years on little tips and tricks with the ping system. How the fuck do you play Brig right now? As the title says, I dropped Overwatch back in 2018-ish because I needed to focus on life. Life is better. I'm back to playing Overwatch, but Brig is so different. She feels like she's made out of paper, and her non-ultimate shield bash no longer having a stun is fucking me up. How do I engage in team fights with her without being crumpled immediately? I'm so lost. I heard that saving bash to escape is something I should be doing, apparently. My friend, you were playing Brig in 2018 when she was grossly overtuned in a 6v6 environment. Yes, Brig will feel like paper because she's a support. She's supposed to be squishy, but has a few defensive tools to keep her alive longer than others if you play her correctly. But you're remembering 2018 Brig from 6 years ago with a Well, how much did you get? You got like 100 free armor for yourself and your team. You had 250 HP. You had more base armor. Your bash had a stun, and you were basically unkillable back then. But nowadays, you have to have a lot more finesse with Brig. So how do you play Brig? You play her as a protector. You can no longer brawl in the front line like you could in Overwatch 1. You play her in the back and be a disruptor. Any dive heroes, you whip shot them away immediately. And your shield bash, you're right, it no longer stuns, but it does activate your Inspire passive healing, so an aura around you will pop out and heal teammates around you. That wasn't the case in Overwatch 1. Overwatch 1, it was just a stun. Did no damage. It was like 5 damage and just a stun. Now it does like 50 damage on the bash and it heals, no stun, unless you pop your ultimate and then it becomes a stun. But that's like, only happens a few times in a game where you get your ultimate. But like overall in the neutral, when you don't have your ultimate available, you try to protect your other support. So that's why a lot of people play Brig paired with Ana, because Ana is vulnerable. She only has her sleep dart and her nade, and she doesn't have mobility per se. And the sleep dart, if it's used offensively, or she uses a nade for an enemy team and a flanker jumps her, she's probably dead, which is why you as the Brig, you have to play to protect your other support like Ana, like Zen, like Bap. If you don't have a support to protect and you're kind of just playing Brig to play it because, you know, it's a ranked solo queue game, you only generally move up and swing with your team if it makes sense to, or you're cleaning up kills, like a 5v4, 5v3, you already won the fight, you can go up there and take advantage of that. But if you're jumping in the front line with your tank and your thing, you're probably gonna die, because it's like, yo, why is Brig in front here? Heroes like Winston can zap through you and doesn't get mitigated by armor. Your shield is way more paper thin now, so you have to be careful. One final tip for Brig is that you asked, should I be shield bashing to escape? Not necessarily escape, but there's no one to bash or stun, right? It can be used as a movement tool. For example, if like a Sigma puts a flux on the ground, you quickly bash, hold jump at the end, create that separation so that you can escape from that, or to cross the gap, because you're a very slow hero without your bash. When you hold your shield up, you have a slower movement speed. If you need to get from position to position, it is more important to get to that position, then you can use your cooldown, your shield bash cooldown, as movement. And bonus tip, if you bash on a slanted or angled object, you can actually bash jump. Best example is Junkertown first point. Near the checkpoint, there's that little like cog wheel, and then there's that sniper high ground near the thing. You can actually shield bash, press jump, and vertically climb up and go assassinate somebody. But this is a very niche scenario, but it's just another option with your shield bash. Okay, deactivating the chat actually helps in improving. So I'm currently low gold, high silver, and I just noticed something. I played 15 matches today with chat enabled and I lost most of them. And all of that I got 5 times, blaming that game was lost because person X is bad. Multiple times I got called noob or uninstall. One time I didn't perform very well and someone called me a bot. And all those games I've gotten one single positive experience where we wrote some funny stuff and laughed together. This chat is so freaking toxic, not worth having it enabled. After I deactivated the chat and didn't focus about it, other people blaming each other, I could just focus more on myself, and the game actually had much better games, etc., etc. If you're stuck, I recommend deactivating the chat, not worth it. Can't say this is true in higher ranks, but in these lower ranks, much strategy isn't discussed anyways. Most of the time people just blame each other. What do you guys think? Do you have similar experiences? I agree. I mean, match chat is basically just a bitching square on the bottom left of your screen. It's 99% of the time it's used by the enemy team to bitch about their team or to bitch about you. The match chat, that chat is just there. If somebody kills you, they'll be like, oh, tank diff, I diffed you, blah blah blah. Or they'll be like, oh, this person on our team is blah blah blah, report them. Oh, this person is so bad, why do I? It's just basically a forum to complain. So you're right, deactivating the chat will probably help you. People typing it in friendly team chat, not really necessary, because you have A, voice chat if you really want to communicate a strategy, rare, and then B, if they are going to flame, they're not going to say it in voice, they're going to type it to your team, like to your team chat, like, oh my god, can we switch this because you're so bad, like you said. Or C, if you do need to communicate a strategy, just use the ping system. You can do the 3, 2, 1 countdown, ping who you need to ping. That should convey enough information. The chat is usually not worth it in this game. Why don't people take cover? I was playing a game on Circuit Royale. I was Junker Queen and Orisa. My team started flaming me, saying that Junker Queen isn't a good pick against their comp. The enemy team had a Widow that was somewhat decent, but can someone please tell me why don't people use cover against Widow? It's the most basic and logical thing, yet they don't do it. People don't take cover for many reasons. A, they forget. which is the worst option. Not as big of an issue the higher you climb, but they forget that taking cover and waiting for healing is a great option. But B, you can't sit behind cover forever, and you need to take space here and there. So going from space to space, like if you have a tank, or if you're Junker Queen, you said your team is flaming you. Junker Queen isn't a great gap closer for Widowmaker from that far away on Circuit Royale. So your only option, like you can't hide and cover forever. You have to go from cover to cover and try to pressure the enemy tank here and there. And it's very, very hard to make space against that when you don't have any sort of like frontal mitigation. There's no safe spot. So then it's hard to take cover. So that's why a lot of people don't. Sometimes the Widowmaker could be in a very nice angle or area that they're just not expecting and get cheesed for a kill when they're not ready for it. It is everybody's job to keep marking and pinging the Widow where possible to know her sight lines and use cover as necessary, or have somebody at least challenge or pressure her so that she leaves that angle for just a moment so your team can progress. So many reasons why people don't take cover, but you know, generally you should, depending on your picks. How do you win games as Kiriko? Seriously, I have a big problem when I play support, especially Kiriko. When I only heal my team, I just lose. When I try to damage a little bit between my heals, all my allies will be 50 HP. I feel whatever I do, I have zero impact on the game and the outcome. It's a guaranteed loss. It's really frustrating. What should I do? Okay, well, you're basically thinking very linearly where if I only heal, I lose. If I try to damage in between, because that's what somebody told me, my allies will not be fully healed. Just for that second part, you can actually do the maximum output of healing, weaving in 1 or 2 kunais in between if you get that rhythm perfectly. That's not really an issue in terms of like if you're heal focused, you should be able to weave a kunai here and there, but it's probably just a lot more finesse on figuring out what your win condition is. When you say you only heal, you just lose, but because you're probably losing in the neutral with just healing. If you just heal, your condition is probably just to build your Kitsune rush and using that rush to win the team fight. That could be option A. You have to think of many other ways to win as a support by not just healing or trying to just do damage. It has to be the right situation for any of those reasons, if that makes any sense. So if I'm focusing on healing, I'll try to build my ultimate and play off of that. If I'm going to go for a bit more damage, use your HP and your teleport as a big resource to pressure and control space. So if you want to take like a cheeky angle as Kiriko, very aggressively, you can pressure them as they're coming up with full DPS for a bit. You take a little damage, teleport out for free. There's a saying that even the off angle frontline in Kiriko is safer than the back line, because if you get jumped in the back line, you have to teleport to the front because you're all the way in the back already. And if you teleport to the front or somebody in front of you, that could arguably be a worse position. But if you're already starting aggressively here, you're drawing attention, you know, very aggressively in the front for just a moment to give your team some space, like your tanks, everybody. And then when they see you and they turn for you, then you teleport out. You actually technically made space for your team in that moment. And then it actually could be indirectly helping your team win and, you know, take space and use their ultimates, use their abilities or whatever. So there is a lot of impact you can have on Kiriko, right? And if you're aggressively up there, you have a chance to dink people and lower their HP and then put pressure on the enemy supports. It's a lot of intangibles that you just can't directly see if you play an effective Kiriko. So I would say, how do you win games as Kiriko? You kind of locked yourself into when I only heal or if I try to damage in between. It's a mixture of everything, using your cooldowns, you know, as best as you can, especially with the aggressive angles. And then with your Suzu, you have to read the situation. Do they have abilities that the Suzu would be very good for, like a Pulse Bomb or Junker Queen ultimate? So you don't have to, you can't use your Suzu as liberally, especially if the game is already like a few minutes in. If it's early in the match, the round just started, you know nobody has their ultimate, sure, you can use your Suzu very aggressively and just heal yourself, make sure nobody dies. Those are some of the ways that and some tips I could give you on how to win more games as Kiriko. And if you're 80% to Kitsune, pop your ult and play off that. There you go. As a solo queue hero, how can you climb reliably? I find it really hard to solo queue as a support in this game. Tanks rushing way off the objective to chase them to their spawn, damage being too scared or doing the same as the tank, and then all of them raging that I can't keep them alive despite the fact that they keep swan diving into 5 enemies. My tank or damage never bother to target their healers, the usual complaints any healer main has. So how can you really do anything if you get a bad team as a healer? I can only out heal so much. And I can't force my team to stop rushing their spawn or whatever else. Okay, obviously you had some bad instances where people are rushing their spawn, but you'd be surprised at how effective that could be. When they say rushing the spawn, you don't mean jumping to their spawn doors, because not every game has people like that. In fact, half the arguments on subreddits like this are like, my team is so passive, my tanks never do anything. And then your argument here is that they're rushing their spawn doors or they're too scared. There's two very big extremes. So one way to do it is to actually follow them. You'd be surprised. For example, as a support, you don't necessarily have to play with the team, but you can pair off. It's a high level strategy. When I played my OWCS matches with my team, Overwatched, our coach Spilo, and we have a very, very big streamer team. And one thing I learned in team environments is you don't necessarily have to play like a clump every time, because it's a very one-dimensional way that a lot of players think you have to play. If somebody is going up in the front, you can follow them. If you're a Lucio player, that's who Custa on our team plays, they follow our Tracer and they pair off and they go very aggressive. And if I'm Kiriko and my tank is going in, I just follow them. You just pair off. You don't have to play as one big clump. Pair 2 here, 3 here. Not always, but that's one way to do it. And if they go aggressive, I go with them. It's way better to be in pairs and have backup and support and, you know, performing a spawn strategy or whatever, versus, you know, having your tank, like you said, running off to the spawn. You're like, what are you doing? I can't follow you. I mean, you sure bet your ass you can. If you go down there and you trade a kill or two, that's better than them going into a 1v4 and dying. You can't control what your team does, right? A solo queue, like you said, is like people will have very, very different play styles. You have your aggressive tank that jumps to their spawn, or you have a very passive tank, a passive DPS, a way too aggressive DPS. As a solo queue player, you climb reliably by adapting to your teammates. And that doesn't even go for supports. That goes for any hero you play in this game. You have to adapt to your solo queue players. If I go play pickup basketball at the local Y, I'm going to have a ball hog. It's going to be annoying, right? And he always hogs and thinks they're Kobe and shoots everything. But like, I have to adjust around that. Because I mean, I can ask them and be like, yo, can you pass it a bit? And you can tell your tank, yo, can you stop doing, you know, jumping like that. It's hard to synergize. And if they're, you know, if they deny it, instead of like being like, oh my God, I hate this person, I can't win with them. I mean, if you truly want to win, you have to sort of adapt to the people around you. That's what I do. That's how, you know, some of the best players in the world in basketball do it, or baseball. You kind of adapt to your environment around you, and the people who adapt survive. Isn't that the Darwin evolution theory? What Flex DPS heroes are the most important to learn? I am pretty much a Tracer OTP, but I play a lot of Echo. I just want to join a scrim team for my university as a Flex DPS, but I wasn't sure which heroes I should be focusing on to fill. So of the Flex DPS, Genji, Torb, Sim, Pharah, Mei, Junkrat, Echo, Tracer, which are the most important to learn before trying to learn all of them? Given that list, I would say Tracer, Echo, Genji, and if you need a brawl comp, probably Mei. I wouldn't bother playing Torb, Sim, Pharah, or Junkrat right now. Mei is the lowest priority, but Tracer, Echo top priority, and then Genji as a maybe as well, and then Mei as a brawl alternative. Those 4. What do you do when you're the weak link on your team? I ping pong between Plat 1, Diamond 5 support, but I keep going on these massive win streaks where I'm frankly getting carried, and then end up in Diamond 4 to 2 lobbies where I'm obviously the weak link on my team. It's pretty frustrating because I feel like I don't belong here. It's like I'm rethinking everything I know, because all of a sudden I'm just getting shat on for how I'm playing, for playing how I normally would. Any advice besides just dealing with it and a way to eventually rank back down? Okay, you're having a severe case of imposter syndrome. Sometimes you feel like you're getting carried, and you say you are, but that happens to everybody. If you feel like you're getting a couple of games where you're carried, sure, that happens, but you're kind of just doubting yourself. Like, if you made it up to Diamond 4, Diamond 2, not everybody can do that. Even if they feel like they're carried, you're getting carried maybe a game or two, but way less than you think if you can consistently get these random streaks to go up, because there's a lot of people that would wish they could hit the Diamond 2 and hit a streak like that. So imposter syndrome, trick yourself into and build some fake Delulu confidence of like, oh yeah, I am this good, and eventually the confidence becomes a reality. You know what I mean? And number 2, you're just psyching yourself out. The moment you lose that confidence and you feel like you're the weak link, you start overthinking, and like you said, you're rethinking everything you know and how you played. You got here yourself with your playstyle. You just run with that, and if you need to make a slight adjustment, make a slight adjustment. Nothing too drastic. Don't rethink and go completely passive because you're scared in this new tempo of the lobby. Play how you did, because that's what got you here in the first place. Small adjustments incrementally, and over time your baseline skill will keep improving. You'll fall back, you'll climb up to your diamond 2, and then you'll fall back down to plat 1, like you said, your plat 1 diamond 5. Then you say you randomly feel like you get carried back to diamond 3, and then you'll fall back maybe diamond 4, diamond 5, but then you push up again because you got carried to diamond 2 again, but then you fall back only to diamond 4 this time. You're not falling back too far, and your baseline will keep moving as you make incremental improvements. So you gotta trick yourself, man. You're better than you think. What's worse, knowing you're the reason you lost or knowing you got carried? We all have games where we know we suck, are the cause of our team's failure. We have games where someone just carries us to victory. What's worse? To me, getting carried feels worse. Something about being carried feels so bad. Like, not only am I not having fun because I'm not impacting the game, but I'm not learning anything either because I'm not being challenged. What do you think is worse? I mean, everyone's answer will be different, but for me, knowing the reason you lost by far feels way worse. Like, what? Knowing you got carried is a nice gift. Accept the gift and just say, thank you, team. I didn't have a great game. Thank you, be grateful, move on. But knowing the reason you lost and feeling like you played like absolute shit feels terrible. Because you know you could play better. So that one's definitely worse. Accept the gift. You can be hard on yourself. Don't beat yourself up over it. Just make sure you're consistent in the next game. That's it. And that's it for this week's questions. Hope you enjoyed the episode. See you later.